Got about a minute or so.
Yeah, I think I just got a notification that you went live.
Okay.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah, I have it on my phone as well. So yeah, there we go. And Dion says it usually takes a few seconds before it'll start recording. I think I'm going to go ahead and hit record also. But I think since it's on YouTube, it's gonna, right, it records anyway, so it'll go on my channel anyhow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure how that works, but I wondered what happens with school. Are you gonna put anything on? Oh no, I guess that's probably just gonna be your Wednesday stuff. You don't need to send this to anybody, right? It's just for YouTube.
Right. I think I have to check in with Zuber because we were on with Ty this morning and he was saying, from what I understood, he said that what happens on school is getting recorded anyway. And I know there've been not really concerns, but a couple of people had mentioned that they can't really be on video because of their jobs. So I wanted to make sure if they're going to get it anyway on school, because I would typically edit out if those people come on and are speaking, we would edit that out before we put it out anywhere. But I'm not
Right.
sure that they would catch it on school before that happened. So it looks like we are live. So we'll get started. I think we'll just start out by saying thanks for being here with us on Old Guy REI. This is our second attempt at a live, and it looks like it might be working. So we're going to roll with it. Some people I can see in the chat, some people are joining us. And again, just to thank you guys for, giving up some time today to be on with me. We talked about some topics that have come up over the past couple of weeks that we wanted to dive into. And I was just thinking, we're all pretty new, I think, at investing. I know all of you. I was surprised, Sean, that I thought you were in the game a lot longer than you have been, apparently, because you, all of the things that you've added on our Wednesday calls, it just seems like you have years of experience. Um, and but realistically, you've been in it only a couple of years,
Right.
or you,
Right. Well, what I tell everybody is I've been an investor for a long time, but I haven't been investing in real estate that long.
okay.
So I think I've translated some of my other, background to real estate.
Okay, great. Yeah, so you being a couple years, this is our third year now, and Mikey is going on his second year. Sam, you're pretty fresh at it too, right?
Yeah, almost 3 years now too, since 2021. So, and then purchased my first property, and then before that, probably the education time,
Mhm.
probably another year or two. So, yeah,
Mhm.
all
Okay.
that all that adds up.
Yeah, and Dennis, you haven't picked up a property yet, but how long have you been studying now, getting ready?
Yeah, you guys are all crusty old dogs compared to me. So I've only been studying and don't have a property, but been studying for probably 3 months, maybe. So not too long. But
Yeah, but
I've
you,
come a long way because you remember the first time I was on, I was like, I don't even know what these words mean. And so now I can actually have an intelligent conversation, somewhat intelligent.
yeah, that comes, I mean, we were in the same spot, when we first started out, and the language is certainly something that you learn over time. Just being around different people, like the guys always talk about, being someone that's a little bit further ahead than you, and it comes, right? But the other thing I was going to mention real quick is that I'm just going to go real quick around the room. So Mikey's in Hawaii, investing in Pittsburgh. Sean's in Atlanta, and your properties are there too, right? In Atlanta, you have a duplex, I think.
Yeah, a duplex and a single family.
Okay. And Sam, you're in Texas, and you're investing local to where you live.
Yeah, local to me, within 30, 40 minutes around where I live.
Okay. And then Dennis in South Carolina. But you're looking right now, you're looking at the Memphis market. Is that what you're zeroing in on right now?
Yeah, so I'm focusing in Memphis. I have a few zip codes that I kind of look at. So I sort of cheat. I think I mentioned this maybe one of the last times we were on. I cheat a little bit on the way Michael Zuber says to do it. I'm focused. I have a buy box in 38111, but at the same time, I kind of cheat a little bit and I look at some of the other ones that I'm interested in, and I even look, local to me, just because there's very little to look at. So I kind of, if I have like a little bit extra time, I'll put a little focus into my backyard.
Okay. Yeah, great. And you guys, well, most people know our story. We're kind of in a few different markets. We're in California, but we're investing in the Midwest. And also another quick shout out to you guys, Sam and Dennis, for getting started with your YouTube channels. It's fun to see that, and our channel is fairly new as well, but again, just the repetition of doing stuff like this is helping us learn more and more. We in real estate and other things, we tend to compare ourselves to other people, and that financial firefighter and all his flashy thumbnails and things like that, he's going for broke, and he's doing a great job. But he made a comment the other day about my thumbnail and how he thought maybe he should have kept it simple. I just have the one thumbnail.
On my post.
Oh yeah, on your post. and keep it simple, but change the titles, and so I imagine one of these days we'll get a little bit more sophisticated as we learn, but congratulations to both of you on getting started. So Sam, you're Wealth with Rentals on YouTube, and Dennis, I just saw yours.
REI Struggle.
Yeah, REI Struggles. That's right. Thanks, Mikey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
So
work in progress.
We can go from the struggle to the wealth.
Yeah, that's the way it's going to go, right? Yeah, awesome. Hopefully we'll get a chance to circle back around and chat some more about that stuff. But I was going to start with the topics that we already discussed between ourselves that we wanted to talk about today. And the first one was something I was thinking about this past week is, am I or are we addicted to real estate investing? And how much time each week does it take up for us? I'll go last, but let's start out with you, Mikey. Do you think you're addicted, and how much time do you put into it each week?
Oh yeah, and before we start, I just want to give a shout out to Mark, Financial Firefighter. He has a live stream later today at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Dion's gonna hop on, and Curtis from PE Turned RE is gonna hop on. I see in the chat's got Late Start Wealth, Susie Q, Mark, Jason, and Cody. So great to see all of you on here. And for me, it is kind of like a part-time job, and I'm okay with that because I've always been kind of passionate about financial freedom. And, I tried all the different ways with retirement accounts and crypto, but, once I kind of hopped on Mark's coattails and just kind of started that journey 1 year in, even though it is a year suck, I'm in this. So it's like, and just being around this community, I just really love it. And even if it's a part-time job, I can already see changes in my life. So I'm all on board with this, and I love it.
Right. Yeah, I think to your point of being in a group, much larger than what's here today, obviously, but all the experience and all the stories and all the people that are working through those challenges, kind of gives us a little bit of security understanding and knowing that it's going to work if we just keep learning and apply what we learn to our own portfolios. How about you, Sean? What do you think about the addiction question and how much time you put into it each week?
Yeah. I don't know if I would say addicted. I do put a lot of time in each week now. I look at my buy box every day. Of course, around the first of the month, I'm tracking rents and stuff. And then, just running numbers and then just trying to get educated. I usually try to attend Dion's live stream on Tuesdays. I've got the old Guy REI session on Wednesdays. Now that Lumberjack's moving to Thursdays, I'll probably be able to go to that more often than I could on Sundays. So probably a lot of time. And I'll just mention also that, when I got my first property, about a year ago, I was spending a lot of time doing a lot of things myself. But once I got it up and rented, I was actually surprised at how little time it took.
Yeah, that's great because are you're self-managing that one property so
I
far?
I am.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common theme.
Mm-hmm.
And it as far as the time it takes per week, you guys know our portfolio is still pretty small, but most of our time is spent dealing with property management, which isn't very much at all. And it's it's getting to be fewer and fewer hours a month, or however you want to look at it. So and Sam, you want to go next? What do you think about the addiction part and how much time you're spending each week? I know you have a family. You have a child or two. You had one on the way. I don't know if that baby's come yet.
Yeah. So next week, God willing. So, but yeah, 2 kids and the third one on the way. So, and it's I am addicted to real estate, and I'd say it's just kind of the way you learn it, the way you start with it. It was hard, and then you move from there to finding some finding some thoughts that reduce that you know negativity about, for example, what if I lose the house? What if I don't rent the house? What if this is not a good investment? Because when you start this journey, all these questions, what if questions are there, and they are valid. They are fine questions to ask, and they are good to do your so now the what we should do, or what I did, was learning. Just like when you start anything you don't know, you learn about it. Now you see the positive side along with the negative side of it, and it's not scary as much as it was at the beginning. And I've heard when I started looking for my first property, I met two realtors, and we went to the house, looking at the house, and the two realtors said, "Well, we're never gonna be a landlord. We'll never be a landlord." Oh, me? I'll never be a landlord. I'm like, all right, well, let's start with that instead of something to think about. But the more we learn about it in the YouTube University, I think this reduce the risk, show you what to do about certain things. So, and I would say, like Mighty did, I invested in stocks. I invested in crypto. I tried all that, but none of them were like something that you can rely on, and none of them give you some cash flow. So the first day I got my rent, even though it took a long time to rent the unit, the first house. This was really good, and felt really good, and I was like, well, this can be repeated. So so yeah, addiction is there no matter what, whether no matter what that happens. This is a long-term commitment.
Yeah, and I think we talk about it, the addicted part kind of jokingly, but for me, I think it's how would I put it? I don't know. You guys know my story about not having retirement. You know, back when we started, that was my motivation in the beginning to create some kind of a retirement for myself and for Cynthia. And I was talking maybe yesterday, was talking to Millennial Mike, telling them that I feel lucky, even though I had to start out through fear of not having a retirement and desperation of being able to build something for our family in case I couldn't work. So I was almost forced, you know, and I can't fail at this. I have to make it work, because if not, you know, Dion talks all the time about people who don't have any money saved for retirement, and what Social Security is going to provide, which is very little compared to living expenses these days. So with the few properties that we've picked up already, we can see that retirement is looking better for us already. And hopefully we won't have to touch the cash flow from the rentals for a while. And we can let that build up and be even better off in retirement. So, you know, that's motivating for us. And
I want to say shout out to these guys. Shout out to Dion and Lumberjack and Zuber and Millennial Mike. Really, their content was right on and was spot on. So I really appreciate that.
yeah, I've said before, and I'll always keep saying it, that we're so lucky to have fallen into such a honest group of guys, right? Letting us know the good and the bad about investing, and being able to share their experiences has helped us get a lot further faster than we could have on our own. So with that, Dennis, how do you feel about the addicted, and how much time you put in each week?
So I think the word addicted was probably not the one that I would use. I'd probably use like hooked, which is basically the same thing. But I don't know, it kind of sounds a little bit better, or maybe devoted, something like that. But I'm definitely in the addiction, devoted, hooked place when it comes to this type of stuff. And like Mikey said, a part-time job, yeah, absolutely. So I was trying to calculate the hours, and I came up with like, I think maybe averaging 4 hours a day doing this type of stuff. So, and that's every day, you know, not quitting on the weekends or anything like that. It might be a little bit more, but when I was trying to do like the rough math, I felt like that was about right. But I'm also trying not to get stuck, because I feel like, you know, I'm hooked on this kind of, you know, watching videos and reading articles and analyzing properties and things like that, because I haven't even gotten into real estate yet. You know, technically, I have no properties. So I feel like I'm kind of still in that analysis paralysis phase, where I'm trying to like sort of, you know, force myself, you know, and I'm eager to force myself out of it, you know, as quickly as possible with due diligence and things like that, just to kind of mitigate the analysis paralysis.
Yeah, it's, I think in the beginning, it's really tough. Like I've mentioned for myself before, I always felt like I was getting in on the latest, greatest thing at the tail end, when, you know, all the good stuff was gone, and not realizing that there's always going to be a real estate deal out there, you know, no matter what the market's like or anything like that. And I jumped in anyway, even though I was still feeling like I was missing the boat. And just doing that has proven to be, well, proved me wrong, right? Because now, over the last 3 years or so, we've been able to acquire a few properties. We've been, you know, we've had the property management struggles. We've had the tenants on the verge of eviction, all these things that are scary to people on the outside looking in. But hopefully through the videos on our channel and discussions like this, we can let people know how we work through the stuff and that it's gonna be fine coming out the other side of the tunnel. And after a bit, I think you are able to be a little more patient. And that's something that I didn't have in the beginning. I was just trying to get as much as I could, as fast as I could, because I thought that's the way we needed to do it for, the point in our lives that we're at. But now, I've been under contract for probably 3 or 4 properties over the last 3 or 4 months, and they've all fallen through. And before, it would have drove me nuts, but now it's like, okay, well, what's next? Let's go find something else. And so I think, when we're talking to people and we're just letting them know, be patient, and it's tough. But the other thing that you mentioned is, and what's happened for a couple of us, is you get that first property and you think you're ready, but there's so much more education that's going to come once you get that property. And after you close on your first one, everything, the whole process gets easier after that one. So I think I would say I'm addicted. Because I can't, we were talking with Mikey the other day, and I was letting him know that I'm even analyzing deals in my sleep. And I used to get upset when I couldn't sleep well, but going through that, losing sleep over analyzing deals for some reason isn't a big deal to me. So, yeah, a little bit broken. All right. There's quite a few people joining us, Mikey. I think
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, Stacy just hopped on, and John Williams hopped on, and also Laura hopped on too. So great seeing everyone else too. Susie did have a question. She was asking, how do you balance life and real estate? Oh, and also Late Start Wealth, he commented saying it's a good obsession, real estate. All the vices in this world, there's a lot of better things. Real estate's, better than all the other stuff we could be getting into.
Yeah, I think it is, well, a healthy addiction, if there's such a thing, other than, being addicted to exercise and eating right. But as far as balancing, I've been really blessed that, that Cynthia is fine with all the time that I'm spending doing the real estate stuff. And since she's still working, she doesn't have that luxury to, watch all the lives or join in all the discussions that we're usually involved in. And so far, she's okay with the time she's giving up with me, because I think she understands that we need to do it to help our future as well.
Well,
And
Frank, it's either that you could have a hobby where you're going out and spending money, or you could have one where you're making money. So she probably likes that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think I've gotten over my addiction to buying tools.
Mhm.
She used to go in the shop and ask me why I had so many tools that I never use, but I tell her I've used every single one of them. You just haven't been there on that occasion,
Yeah. And next year to be like, what are all these cash flowing properties doing around here, Frank?
Yeah, that'll be a nice problem to have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she's been awesome. And our son, I've mentioned our son before. He's probably going to pop in here sooner or later. He's he's been helping me a lot with the Zoom and editing videos and things like that. He's asking for a raise. I don't know if we're going to give into that one yet, but So it's a lot of fun. And just to thank everyone who joined us today, it's really awesome. Except for the financial firefighter, I thought he'd be out chasing cats or saving cats for some old lady somewhere. But he's done with that and he has time to join us.
He was. Oh, sorry.
You know,
He was
that's
saying
okay.
he was saying he was expecting Hawk Tua to be a guest. So he's like, "What's up with that?"
Yeah, I'm already tired of her, honestly. She's everywhere. Um, and apparently her life has changed drastically just from that one silly video. I mean, she was on stage with some country singer. I forget who it was, but she got on stage with him, and she's just been all over social media. The I kid about Mark, and he said something one time about, because he's always teasing us, right? And he said something like, the guys in the firehouse, if they don't tease you or mess with you all the time, then they don't like you. So he must really love me because he's always messing with me and anyone who he has a chance. I think I gave him a lot of ammo on my AOL email, and he's been using that for weeks now. So we love him though, and he's always one of our biggest supporters. Along with Dion and the lumberjack, always mentioning us and all the things that we're doing to help promote us. So we appreciate them as well.
And Laura makes a great point. She says, it is not an addiction, it is discipline and focus.
Yeah, I'm glad. And Laura, she's been awesome. I think she's actually been going through even though our video library is fairly small, she's been going through all the videos and commenting, and it's been really nice to chat with her back and forth about that. So thank you, Laura, for being here and for supporting us.
I mean, I want to throw two things here, like what Sean was saying is a good addiction. It's in the right direction, making money instead of losing money, going to Vegas, spending all the money there, right? And then, and then the other one is like when this comes to the family, it kind of stayed in the family. So it's kind of like what you mentioned, Frank, about your son. He started learning and getting kind of some knowledge from you and your wife about what's going on, and so, and this may stay for a while, and it's definitely something in the right direction for the family. I mentioned one of my posts in the past after we came back from Zuber, one rental at a time in Vegas. I mean, I feel like real estate investing was going through our blood now, and it's like, after seeing everyone, seeing you guys. So yeah,
It's
it's
kind of like,
addiction.
oh, sorry, Sam, go ahead.
No, it's a good addiction in the right direction.
I was going to say it's kind of like playing Monopoly, but the money's real.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's what I like about it.
yeah. It's nice to win. I always lose at the board game. That wasn't fun. But yeah, you mentioned Vegas and how I was really excited to get to meet everybody that we've been talking to on Zoom for all the months prior to that. And we've talked before about how everybody that we've met through this journey has been, I don't know, so giving and honest and generous, and you don't see that in a lot of other circles, but I haven't met anybody in this group that I would want to avoid, I guess, for lack of a better term. And I joked, Cynthia and I were joking. I told her, well, what if I get to Vegas and they don't like me in person? What? Then that's going to be a big disappointment. But everybody was awesome. We got to hang out with Mikey and Sam. You were there, and just made a lot of great friends. So another thing that I was listening to with Zuber and Dion and Matt, I think the title was "What's Keeping People Poor," and they were talking about how people, buy now and pay later these days. Matt talked. His big thing was he thought the iPhone was like the big thing that was keeping people broke, and I think the thought behind that was the fact that everybody has a phone, and nowadays a phone, $800 to $1,000 for a new phone, and everybody thinks it's a must have, and that just led into I used to have relatives that would buy furniture and TVs on like consignment and pay over time, and that's kind of how my upbringing was, and it just made me think of what our monthly expenses are. We don't have a lot of things that we have purchased over time. We have our regular stuff, our phones. You have your regular bills, utilities, and things like that. We don't have any car payments. But I wonder how you guys are doing. Do you have anything like that might be slowing your journey down? Do you, I don't know what it could be. You buy a big TV and you're making monthly payments, and that cash could be used in a better way.
I think for me, and this is kind of laying it bare a bit, is that I sometimes really get into impulse buying and kind of want, I don't know if impress is the right word, but sort of like wanting to impress my family or bring them places, give them things, because I just been kind of a giver whenever I, feel like I have some extra, like I like to, spend it or give things to my family and friends and things like that. So I think that's and I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just something where I feel like sometimes, because I didn't grow up with a lot of money. My parents are poor. My dad's on welfare, and my mom and stepfather, they're doing okay, but they don't have really anything to retire on. So very little at least. And my mom's already retired. So it's kind of like I finally got to the point in my life where, and it took a while. It took, 25 years from when I joined the military until I got out of the military, and then afterwards, where I finally sort of figured out my finances, and I figured out that, okay, now I have enough where I can buy things, I can go out to eat, we can do these extra things, and it doesn't really hurt me too much. So I think I'm still having a hard time with like the um, self gratification, or the fast food generation, where having it your way right away, things like that. So that's a tough one for me, I think.
Yeah. How about you, Sam? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Um, so to me, that starting, just kind of, just kind of try not to spend anything extra on things I don't need. I would say phones are no more than $200 refurbished. All right. And so if it's more than that, not for me. TVs, probably another 50 on that. So so it's not gonna be the Samsung curved and then 50, 100-inch. I think we will get what we need, and we will leave the stuff that we don't need aside. Just that I don't. We enjoy food outside, you know, in the weekend or a couple times a week, but it's not like every day like some other people I've seen at work or uh, you know. So that helps with the with the saving. Um, and I don't have, for example, like you said, we and the house we live in, we got the interest rate was 4.1%, well, 4.1%. When COVID hits, it was like 3%, and I got cash out. So So that helps tremendously, $1,200 per month to reduce our, and that $200 a month can help for the next house payment, right? Or for anything else you want to do. Cars are paid off, so and it's not the 2025 models, and we're just trying to we will get what we need, but not like just because we see someone having something, we'll buy it. So it'll be good to make us comfortable and and save at the same time. So that helps with saving. And now that helps.
Yeah, that's great. How about you, Sean? You got thoughts on that?
Well, I don't do buy now, pay later. I do think at the risk of stating the obvious that we're in inflationary times now, and if you go back to the wealth building formula of you've got your expenses, you've got your income, and the gap in between is your discretionary income, right? That's shrinking for a lot of people, right? So if you don't have a plan on how you're going to deal with that, it's going to keep shrinking, right? Which is one thing that attracted me to real estate in the first place. You can fight back, right? You can play defense. At least you have stuff going up in value. So yeah, that's kind of what I think about it. I do some some occasional vacations and stuff like that, but at the same time I'm 57, so it's time to do them. So
Yeah, I agree with that. How about you, Mikey? I know at the point you're at in your investing journey, you're loving to save whatever you can for the next purchase. So it doesn't seem like you would have any buy now, pay later issues.
Yeah, the only thing that's kind of hard for me is my girlfriend's in Japan, so I've kind of made a decision with her that every year I'll come out and see her, where she also can come out to see me in Hawaii.
Mhm.
So it is hard for me to try to spend that money on that trip to Japan with everything that's included. I can get it to maybe a little bit under 3,000 a year. And I just told her if we can just kind of keep it at that level and try to be as, budget friendly as possible, I think down the line it'll help us more instead of every time I go out, we end up spending more and more as I get more income streams. So that's the thing I was kind of wrestling with. And, I know Stacy was mentioning uh, she has type 1, her husband is a type 1 diabetic, and so am I. So I kind of spend a lot on insulin and my Dexcom. So yeah, I definitely relate to that. The bills that can come up, even with good insurance. Yeah, the bills for type 1 diabetic does get kind of costly. So I don't really care for that too much.
Yeah, that's it's hard to avoid that, but I joke, because I'm type 2 diabetic, and when I go in to get my bag full of prescriptions each month, I'm joking with the girls at the counter, telling them how expensive it is to live these days. I mean, we done a lot of things that happen to us are hereditary, from like my parents both had heart issues and we're both diabetic, and there are things we can do to try to get off medications a little bit to help with the budgeting aspect, but sometimes those things are just other things that we can't really control. When I first started out, I'm like you guys know, I'm a general contractor. We used to eat breakfast and lunch out every day, pretty much, and I don't know at what point I realized how much I was spending a week on food. But back then, I mean, that was in the 90s, and it was probably $30 a day, 150 a week, right? But now, I mean, you drive through McDonald's and it's 20, $25. when, and being an investor gives you a different mindset. Sometimes I would think, well, if I don't eat lunch today, that's $25 that can go towards my next property. and weird thoughts like that. But one thing I did do years ago was when I finally stopped, I either stopped breakfast or lunch, one of the two, and I did automatic deposits to one of our savings accounts of $10 per day, even though I was probably spending 15 at least, but $10 seemed reasonable to me. And
That's an awesome idea.
that added up over time, really, and it did help us to the point where we could get our first property. So, I mean, the mindsets of an investor, takes you to some weird spots, but usually they're good things that can help you on your journey. And like you were saying earlier, Sean, just the cost of everything these days. Again, going back to what Dion was saying earlier about people who don't have anything saved for retirement, but even for us, if you have 100,000 or 200,000 in the bank, that's still not enough. You need more these days to have a decent lifestyle after retirement. And to your point about enjoying, taking trips and enjoying things now, we're to that point now where even taking, a trip for a few days and enjoying it, or really just the other day, we were just sitting outside and enjoying that time together when, years before it was all hustle, right? I was working like 7 days a week. I did that for a whole year and missed out on a lot of just the little private special time. So, everybody should consider that and take every chance to enjoy each day because we're not guaranteed tomorrow, that's for sure.
And enjoy every win. Like, although we do all that, we will enjoy every win. Yeah, that whether it's simple or not, it's very important because, like you said, who knows what happens tomorrow. So
yeah,
enjoying the wins, every single win, like it's a good thing to keep us going. So
yeah, I think that's true. That's one thing that we didn't really pay attention to. Like it's probably Zuber. I'm sure the other guys have mentioned it too, but after you close on a property, celebrate a little bit because that's a major accomplishment. Go to dinner, go someplace for the weekend, and don't just think that if you go someplace over the weekend and you pay $200 or $300 for a hotel, a lot of us are that broken that we don't even want to do that, but you need to, you really should take every chance to enjoy what you have today. The other thing that I was curious about was, well, I know for us, saving for the next property is pretty much saving from what we earn, each week or each month. Do you guys have any other, I don't know if you want to call them side hustles or any other little things that give you extra money to save for your next property?
Besides the rents from the current properties?
Yeah, that's a great one.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's my number one.
Yeah, or maybe if you don't have any properties yet that you're getting rent from, how are you? Or maybe Dennis, how are you saving for your first one?
Well, I have a pretty good amount of net at the end of the month for my W-2 that I don't really have to do anything extra for the most part. But I do have like quite a bit already saved for the first one, and then I guess you could say maybe one little thing I'm doing on the side is I'll sell things that we're just not using anymore, or just doesn't make sense for me to have anymore. So little things like that. Nothing huge. Funny that I actually did start a business. Just kind of, it's nothing crazy, but it was something I wanted to do with my family, and I haven't really pushed it too much. I got the website, and I had my wife. She made like a digital art for it. She drew a couple of our dogs, and it's a dog waste cleanup service. So, I have shirts and I have hats and all kinds of stuff. So I was gonna kind of like have my family all together and do that. Not only would it be something that maybe you get a little bit of extra money, it's probably not going to be a ton, but it's something that you can kind of start educating your kids about, business and saving and service and things like that. So that's the only thing really that I'm doing at the moment. But for the most part, I have my money saved up already and just saving every month with my W-2.
Yeah. How about you, Sam?
Yeah, same with me. I haven't. So it's just the money saved from my W-2, and I really haven't put a lot of thought about side hustles at this time. Just simply because I don't have the time, other than looking at some deals and looking for the maybe next property, or dealing with or learning something new with the real estate investing. And I'm trying to focus my time. I have little kids, so it's kind of hard to do other than your work, to do something else at this time. But I also like it will depend on the side hustle. Like maybe my thought was, so far the side hustles maybe I thought about in the past, we're not like, will not pay you enough to justify the time you spend on them. So, and if it's that way, then better maybe not to do them, or save the time to think of something maybe better, or just focus on real estate, because that's another kind of side hustle that we all spend time on. So yeah, to me, if it's worth it, I would do it. If it's not, like, because you can do side hustle. I can go spend time, maybe work on a part time somewhere. But if that will give me, if it justifies the pay is enough, maybe yeah, I will do it. But so far I haven't thought of something that would do that. So maybe in the future. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat as you. I mean, I toy around with building small furniture, crazy little things, which could generate some income. But like you said, I mean, all our kids are all grown up. I talk about my son, our son, he's 29. And if we had started our journey when he was younger, there's a little bit of guilt there, right? Not spending enough time with your young child. Um, and you're working towards being able to do that. But by the time you are successful enough to be able to give them the time, they're all grown up, right? So it's been fun. He's 29. He's been on this journey with us since we started educating ourselves again in 2019. He actually, I mentioned before, he got a small inheritance when my mom passed away, and he actually used that for a down payment on our Guy REI property. And so he's getting a better return on his money through the cash flow from that property than he would letting it sit in the bank, even at 4 or 5%. So he, Dion talks about generational wealth not being a great idea, or that's not why he's investing. And in our case, they always say that the second or third generation loses everything anyway. But I think with the portfolio that we're building, and it's going to help us in our retirement, and then when he takes it over, he can sell it all if he wants. It's not going to be, I mean, we can't be disappointed, right? We'll be gone already. So hopefully he understands it well enough to know that if he keeps it running, his life is going to be a lot better than just selling it and blowing the money and, you know, being left empty-handed after that. So,
I like
yeah.
that you're giving him a taste of it now. So this is a great mindset for him. This is gonna be for with him. You know, he's seeing the money coming. So nothing can beat that.
Yeah, no, and we have some great discussions between he, Cynthia, and myself when we're looking at properties. They both see things that I don't see, or they ask questions that make me dive into things a little bit deeper. So that's been really good. And
Awesome.
when we talk about things, he's right there with us. So I'm glad about that. So I think
There was some activity, if you just update on the chats.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, so Trade Better 99, he says hey, and also has a question too. So it's great because he did a great interview with Financial Firefighter, and I really love that interview, and he's always active in all the communities. Ned Talks hopped on too, and him and Landlord Odyssey, they have their own channels and they're doing great discussions. Ned and Mojo Mindset, they just did a video where they walked the 20 unit. Then Late Start Wealth commented, he's continued, or he or she has continued to be impressed with the caliber of people in the umbrella of the ORAD community. And John Williams said, cars has definitely slowed him down, even buying cheaper Kia vans. And John Williams was in Lumberjacks boot camp. Me and him were in there, so that was great seeing him on there. And of course, Financial Firefighter splurges on Crocs. That's his one splurge item. And Laura said, glad that Frank, you created this channel. It's a virtual REI meetup, opportunity to share knowledge and concerns, stronger together. So, going back to Trade Better's question, are any house upgrades done, or any house upgrades that you did that ended up being a waste of money?
I was thinking about that this morning because, when we started the channel, I just started talking about how we got restarted, and then I did a video kind of on each property that we purchased. And I was just thinking that it might be a nice idea to update on all of those videos, because the first property that we got was the triplex, and it wasn't built as a triplex. And I think everybody knows I haven't seen any of our properties in person yet. That was a single, like a big Victorian, and they divided it up into 3 2-bed, 1-bath units. And there were a lot of issues with the flow and heating and cooling, like you guys have probably heard me talk about that. But we just did a big renovation on the property, and we're hoping that that'll help us get not necessarily better tenants, but tenants that will stay longer, because it was a challenge. There was one heater, you guys know, one furnace, and it was controlled by the downstairs unit for all 3 units. So however that person felt, if they were hot or cold, the heater went on or the heater turned off. So that was frustrating, I'm sure, as a renter in that building. We haven't spent money on anything yet that we don't think has been worth it in our portfolio yet. Have you guys?
I haven't.
Yeah, I have it too. I think we stay away from the more expensive items in our rehab. So the more we, I think like things like granite is important, but they might be more expensive than Formica, but they're still going to be there for a long time. Paint is the same. You can upgrade to a higher grade, but which will give you a better return because it may spread better. It may kind of be economic and kind of better for your for the end result at the end. So and yeah, and flooring you can find, you know, you can put the most expensive tile, but then that probably something that you don't wanna do because it would be expensive, and then if you put LVP, that would give you the same, you know, solid and safe upgrade to your property, you know, and so things like that. I mean, you know, you have to, like, I think lumberjack talked about the value of your you know, what you spend on. You spend money on something that you don't want to go cheap, but you want to go with the highest value. So if you get something that, you know, you can spend just a little bit more and maybe a few $100s more, and you get a better value that will stay there in your house for a long time. Well, you know, you're a landlord and you want to keep this house for a while. So then the better quality you put, not the luxury quality, but the better and solid and long-term quality you put, the better you are long-term. So you have to think about it again. You don't have to replace it every year. And don't go with the cheap stuff. I have one of my second property. We went with some faucets from Amazon, and they were low quality. So within 6 months, I got a call from the tenant or a text message saying it's leaking. So we went with the Home Depot grade, and it was better. So you know, things like that. So the value is what we're targeting. But I haven't spent anything extra on our rental, my rentals, just because I want to look nicer than anything else. It will look solid and still good.
So pay up for things that'll last longer. Buy nice, not thrice.
Yeah, I've we haven't had to upgrade. Well, I should say we did replace some kitchen cabinetry in that triplex, and they had Formica countertops, so we went with Formica again. I like Quartz. I think you have to be sensitive to the markets that you're in. You know, if it was a strong B class area and other rentals have Quartz, then, you know, putting Formica in is not a good idea. You want to at least be able to compete. And again, on that triplex, the building is in very nice shape, but it is old. It was built in 1904, I think, and it was having trouble competing with other rentals in the area because they're newer buildings, they have nicer finishes and things like that. So that was part of the upgrade, the reason for the upgrade as well. And I think there was a question in here about if I had thought about selling the triplex versus upgrading it. And Cynthia and I talked about it. I was leaning towards selling it because it was a $30,000 project. After we talked, and you know, it's like there have been other comparisons, but she's like, "Why would you sell it after it's nice?" You know, and it's kind of like what Dion talks about when he was in the trucking school, in the driving school, that the owners would come and want to sell trucks, but they were trucks that had a new engine, new transmission, and everything like that. So why would you pay to upgrade it and then sell it when you probably wouldn't recoup what you put into it? So we decided to keep it, you know, and we're in this journey for the long haul. We didn't plan on selling any of our properties. So it was kind of like, I guess it was an emotional thing for me, you know, but now we'll see. Now, one unit has been occupied through all the rehab. Now the other two apartments are up for being advertised and shown. So we'll see what the next tenants bring. And I mentioned earlier, Dennis, you had sent in a few thoughts, and one of the thoughts that we were going to go over today was there a mindset shift on retirement that sparked your interest in real estate investing? And I think we could take it a bit further. If it wasn't in retirement or how you think of retirement, what got you interested in real estate investing to begin with?
Yeah, so for me, and I mentioned this on my introduction video, and probably before when we've talked, but the catalyst for me was the tax return this year. So that was a that was a big hit to me. So that was sort of the start of it, but I still didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So what I started kind of like almost at the same time, I let me back up a little bit. So in the past, I was an avid reader, always reading all the time. Always had a book, but I sort of not really fell off, but sort of like graduated to audiobooks. You know, I had long commutes, so that was a lot easier to do things like that. And I came across this one book called and it's not Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's not the one maybe you're thinking of, but that came a little bit later. The first book I actually came across was a book called Rise of the Reader by Nick Hutchison. And in trying to make it a shorter story, basically there's a lot more to it, but it's kind of like a self-help book that gives you like practical advice on getting back into like reading, like into a reading program. And he mentioned several books that he recommended, and Rich Dad Poor Dad was one of them. So once I read that, you know, that was the mindset shift. You know, I didn't know what I was going to do for retirement. Besides, you know, I've been putting a lot of money away, so I knew I was going to be ready at, you know, mid 60s or whatever. But I didn't get that. I got that mindset shift when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and really kind of saw the ability to retire much earlier than that when it comes to, you know, looking into real estate. So that's sort of my real quick story on how the that mindset shift came to be.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. How about you, Sam? What what sparked your interest?
Like like we all make, go to work every day, and and every year, it happens. And now after a few years, we all sometimes have time to kind of to explore. You want to explore what else you can do, right? What else you can do with your time? What else you can do with can you make more money somehow? Is there other ways around this other than going to work every day and coming back? Um, it was something that was like, and we all started with some stars and mutual funds, and the ups and downs with that. So I was looking for something else. I was looking for maybe something different, and I came across online an article written by Robert Kiyosaki, which is not Rich Dad Poor Dad, but it's an article like a small PDF with 10 pages talking about something. So I started reading it. So like, let's read it. Let's see what this is. And from that day, I think that was in 2019. And from that day, I'm like, this is really something that you don't I can do, and it's probably possible. So after that, I started learning about it. But it was that uh, uh, mindset shift that turned after reading that article, and it was well, because we all don't want to be late on getting getting what we want. So you can stay, you can be working all the time, but there's always ways to maybe speed it up and make better life. And so yeah, that was the mindset shift for me. Since then, I started learning in YouTube. I came across channels like Bigger Pockets, and then some other ones, and I ended up with one rental at a time. And then I saw Dion and Lumberjack and you, Frank, as well. And so, this was the kind of the mindset shift for me, and it's going to yield for sure a better outcome.
Perfect. How about you, Sean? What sparked your interest?
So yeah, I can specifically remember two thoughts that came up when I got really, shifted mindset in terms of real estate. I'd always been interested in it. I was interested before, kind of as before short-term rentals got really popular. I had always kind of thought like, well, gee, wouldn't it be nice to have a place in the beach or on the beach or in the mountains that you could short-term rent, the tenants would pay for, you get a tax deduction, and you could use it yourself. Wouldn't that be great? So that was kind of my thinking before, not so much as wealth building, but like having a place for personal use, right? And for me, kind of a mindset shift came during COVID because I think I mentioned before I've been investing a long time. I've invested in stocks and I am one of those retirement account investors.
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, when COVID hit and I remembered seeing the portfolio go down like 30%, it really hit me and said, what if I had retired and my portfolio went down 30% right after I retired, right? I can't afford to be all in one thing, right? I have to diversify. I have to have other means of in retirement. And the more I researched it and kind of picking on that vacation rental background where I've been researching, and I thought, that's diversifying some stock investing into real estate. That's a great way to turn something into retirement income, right? Stocks. I think Sam mentioned earlier that talking about the volatility, right, is just not being right for him and everything, and that's kind of the way it is, right? You can make a lot of money with stocks, but it can be gone like that, right? But if you have properties that have income, yeah, I mean, it's really good in retirement. So it was really for me that mindset shift moment was when I went in and saw that COVID downturn and thought, I need to do something to mitigate the risk of being all in one asset class, and then a little bit more thinking of it, like I mentioned before about inflation. I think that if you're going to play the game now, you're either going to swim with the current or it's just going to wash you away. And if you're not doing something where you're going up in value, you have something going up in value with inflation, you're just going to get crushed in the long term. So I think real estate's good for that.
Yeah, that's another great thought because, well, Mikey, I'll let you go ahead and answer that. What sparked in you that you thought real estate would be the way to go?
Yeah, I relate a lot to what Sean was saying because I was similar where I would always be tracking my net worth, and then someone had said, okay, you go by the 4% rule. Then they changed it to 3.5. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, and I'm just realizing how long I would have to continue investing that way in mutual funds, going down that route. And I just saw how long I would have to be doing that to actually, the guys talk about 40 for 40 for 40. And, you know, then I always had bigger pockets on the periphery where I'm listening to it. But you got one interview talking about one thing, you got the next interview talking about another thing. And it's like kind of hard to really start because you just have all these different interviews going all over the place. And it wasn't until I met Mark, and then Mark kind of introduced me to the REI Avengers, is when I really got kind of hooked in. Then they got the live streams where you can ask questions so we can even begin to understand basic concepts and start. So that's what really turned the tide for me, where I just saw Mark doing it and, hopped on his coattails. Then I met everyone after following the REI Avengers, and it's kind of, it's been a great turning point for me. And now I don't even check my net worth anymore because now I understand that that doesn't really mean anything now.
Yeah, that's cool. I know. You make me think about the first time we tried it, and I had just jumped in because I knew other people that had rentals and they seemed to be doing great. So, and at the time they were handing out money for free, basically. And we qualified to buy, a single family. We bought a duplex all within a couple of months. And I was hungry to keep buying, but luckily, you've seen Shane on our Wednesday calls. He was a mortgage broker at the time, and he was the one we got our loans through. And I was still looking, and he's like, "You better put on the brakes because you just never know. You're so new at this." So luckily I stopped, and that I guess helped us lose less over time. But we had pulled money out of our primary to buy those places, so we ended up with a higher balance on our primary residence and things like that. So yeah, and so the second go around was a lot easier to learn. And I mean, we could have, I don't know, like I said earlier, we're lucky to have fallen into this group, but like you said a minute ago, there's so much information out there. How do you know who's the right person to follow, who's the right person to learn from? And I think, everybody that's in this community right now with us is in the best spot for reaching their goals. One of the things that we talked about early in our journey was trying to figure out how many properties or how many doors you would need to retire. That was one of the points that Dennis brought up. Do you guys have a number in mind of what it's going to take for you to feel comfortable enough to retire? Sam, you want to go first?
Yeah, Frank. So for me at the beginning, from the beginning, I said I will need about 20 rentals, and if I get $200 to $250 each, that will end up giving me some good income to to be okay. So and then I heard about later on about the you call the lean versus fat FI.
Mm-hmm.
And so so that and so if I get to the lean, I mean, that's a great step. I get to the fat, even better. So and so and so yeah, I haven't thought about it recently, but that was like 2 years ago, and I wanted, like, I made a goal, let's say. But I feel after the education we all had, I think like it maybe it'll be even require even less properties, or probably will and I feel like the process will speed up. Like the first year you may buy one property, in 2 years maybe you buy the next one, but I feel like the property may speed up if you with time and experience in this market. So you may end up buying a fourplex, and that you added then more units, and that's or you end up buying two properties at the same time from the same owner. or seller financing, which is a great way of doing it. So, but I kind of, let's say 20 for now, but I feel I may end up, even less. But if it grows more, even better.
Cool. How about you, Dennis? Do you have any thoughts on how many you're going to need to retire the way you want to?
Yeah, I did have an initial thought, if I had to completely offset my W-2, if that was my goal, probably would need dozens of doors, dozens of properties. I think I calculated it to like 29 or something like that, 29, 30. But then I thought more about it, and I read a couple articles on it and thought, well, you're gonna have so many tax benefits from that if I'm paying my W-2 $36,000 a year in taxes, well, maybe I need to look more at that number. What is the number for my W-2 after taxes? And then, you know, kind of go from there. So I still don't have like a real number necessarily. I did also look up, I can't remember what website it was on now, but it was talking about like Generation X. Well, it was talking about all the generations and seeing like how much money they would need to live on, like the interest. And for Generation X, it was 1.56 million. So living on the interest, 4%, whatever, would be $62,000 a year, which is about $5,000 a month. So that was my initial, and I can't remember. I feel like maybe it was Mikey, but I can't remember. I remember somebody kind of having the same number as me, thinking like, how much do you need per month to really feel comfortable, and not have to worry about the W-2 anymore? And I came up with 5,000. It might need to be a little bit more, but right now that's kind of what I was looking at. It wasn't how many doors, like, because if it's doors, then they would all have to be cash flowing really well, and to offset the W-2, they'd have to be like 29 doors. So, but I think that's a little bit overkill. I'm not saying that wouldn't be great to be at that point, but uh, and I think I've heard a lot of people in the community say a good measurement is to say 10,000 a year, 10,000 a month. So $120,000 a year in semi-passive uh, cash flow in real estate would be really, really comfortable.
Yeah, I agree. How about you, Sean?
So I'll agree with a lot of what's been said. For me, I don't know if it's the number of doors is it so much as it is a kind of a financial independence number, right? But because I'll stay, I'll continue with some stock investing along with the real estate too. So I'll have that, plus Social Security, but which I'm not going to count on, but hopefully it's still there. But I'll throw something out just to make the conversation a little interesting. To me, I think a few of my doors are not going to be as an equity holder. It's going to be as a lender, right? Because I've shared with some of you before that part of what I'm doing is self-directed IRAs, right, where I'm buying some properties, and my strategy for that particular position is to take the door, hold it for 10 years, let it appreciate, and then I'm really thinking about selling it, turning into a note, right? So to me, that turns your $200 a month cash flow into 2,000, and it takes away your property tax, your insurance, your maintenance, your property management, your time you have to spend managing it, and it shifts it all to someone else. So I'm still going to own units, don't get me wrong, but I'm thinking a few notes that are heavy cash flowing could be a part of my strategy. Some of my doors will be as a lender, maybe. Sam wants to do seller financing, so I'll make him a good deal when I get ready to retire. And
There you go. Yeah, and
I start learning your market now.
that's a great point about, and it makes me think about connections made in this community, right?
Mhm.
You know, Dion jokes around like he's going to sell or finance all his stuff to Millennial Mike, and
Right.
you know, you wouldn't, without being in here, you wouldn't have access to those kinds of things. People
Mhm.
wouldn't get to know you, understand, you know, what you're hoping to do and things like that. So
Mhm.
that's a lot of great information.
Mhm.
Mikey, did you have a number of doors that you were thinking you would need to retire?
You know, I'm similar with Sean, where it's like the number, the monthly number is kind of what I'm focused on. So however many doors it takes to get to that number is what I'm trying to reach. And yeah, like Dennis was saying, you know, I'm around that 5,000 mark, but I don't know how risky this is, but I wouldn't mind stress testing at like maybe 3,000 and seeing what that looks like. But I don't want to get, you know, caught in something where that's why maybe to stress test it, see how that works, and just kind of play around with it as maybe then stress test it at if three doesn't work, then maybe stress test it at four. Then if that doesn't work, then you know, five.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. I think you know, when we first started out, and you guys and I have talked about it before, that we were thinking we would need around 30 doors at 200 a door. But then, you know, other things come into play, like the income being fairly passive, and what are you going to be taxed on? You know, if we're both retired and we're living off the cash flow, Social Security, and all that stuff. But then also the fact that once you get in and you're in it for 5 years, 7 years, you know, the cash flow on those first few properties is going to be greater. So by that time, maybe you don't need 30 anymore, you know, maybe you can scale it down by however many doors. I'm hoping that the cash flow that we could live off everything that we have, the Social Security, the income from the rentals, if we're able to live on that and still be able to save some money each month, then I think that would be a pretty good spot to be in versus where we would have been without any rentals. You know, we might have to save one of the vans and start living in one of those, but hopefully not. Um, and, and and the options, right? You know, once you get a few rentals, I think I've joked around with you guys about the fact that I was never able to put a payment on um, an automatic monthly payment because I never knew if there was going to be money in that account to pay it next month, you know. And when I finally got the opportunity to do that, it's been a little while since I did that, but that felt great, you know. So having options, having rentals gives you options. And you know, again, before back in the day, if one of the vans needed tires or it needed an engine or something like that, it was a major deal because we had to find the money somewhere and then we were paying it back over time. But now, you know, if the van or a car needs tires, the money's in the account. You hate to spend it, but it doesn't stop your progress, right? So that's been a big one for me, just that whole mindset shift in I guess that feeling of desperation when you have a monetary setback like that. Do you I should check in with you guys and see if you still have time to keep going because there's a couple of other things on our list, but I don't want to, you know, take up your whole Sunday. And we don't want the spouses getting upset with how much time we're putting into real estate.
Yeah, Late Start Wealth did have a question.
Yeah.
Have any of you added to a single family or converted a two-bedroom duplex into a three-bedroom?
I haven't. I have one
Um,
single family, but it's newer.
I have a single family home that I purchased, and it had 3 bedrooms and I converted that to a 4 bedrooms. And so this was my second property, and yeah, the process was if it has the right configuration layout, and you can put a door and a wall in between, and you just still have a space for a window and a closet and a door, and that's what's required. And in my state, it's above 70, I think, or 80 square feet total as a room, then you can do it. And especially if there's no HOA or any of that kind of stops you from doing that. And I think I spent about no more than 2,000 or so on that project, and that was 4 bedrooms, and so that increased the cash flow on that property, and so yeah, it was a good deal. It was a good return on the money for sure.
Yeah, that sounds like it really is.
Yeah.
We haven't done that yet, but when we purchased our last single family in St. Louis, we bought it as a 2-1, and through the process, I had noticed they had done an addition, but I didn't really think about it at the time. But after we took over the property, a Section 8 tenant came with the property, and the return was very good with the Section 8 rents that we're getting. And our property manager, when they went in to take pictures and video and do a few repairs, we asked them about it, and he said, yeah, it could be a 3rd bedroom, the addition. The only thing it already had a closet, but it didn't have a door to close off the bedroom, and it didn't have a door on the closet. So we had those done at the time, and now the only thing we would need to do to rent it out as a 3 bedroom would be to add heating and air, because the ductwork was originally for the 2 bedroom house. And I think that would probably cost, if we did it, we would do it right. It would be between 3,000 and 4,000, but today would increase the rent by about $150 to $200 a month between a 2 bedroom and a 3 bedroom, what the current FMRs are at. So the tenant's been taking good care of the place, and we're happy with the cash on cash return that we bought it at. If she ever leaves, we'll change it up. We'll make the changes and start renting it as a 3-1.
It's kind of a mindset for the tenant. I mean, so you move from 2 bedroom to 3 bedroom, and like in my case, I ended up having a single mom with 2 kids. I mean, do they really need 4 bedrooms? Maybe not. But it's just where they were looking for something big, and I think the 4th bedroom ended up being a storage, which is fine with me. But that's how they use it. They just it's the same. If I kept it as 3 bedrooms, they could have kept the storage, but putting that wall in between makes it a little more private. You can lock that door, put it as storage, or you can use a bigger family can use it. So yeah, and it's that way of thinking was definitely something profitable.
Yeah, I think an extra bedroom is definitely a plus if you can figure out a way to get one in there. One of the last points that or questions that Dennis had brought up was, how do you feel about putting more down on a property that you're purchasing to create a better cash flow? Mikey, do you have thoughts on that one?
Oh yeah. So on the first one, I made a lot of mistakes and didn't. That's why the way Dennis is doing it is the way I should have done it, where I should have took my time and really kind of learned the market better and kind of understood things better. But it wasn't until I kind of got into it, then I'm starting to learn things on the fly. So, the way Dennis is doing it is the right way, is is the better way. And that's why when Lumberjack, going to his boot camp, he really impressed that on me, where it's like slow and steady, that's the way to go. And that's actually made a huge impact on my thinking moving forward, where, I'm trying to buy, but actually it's like better to buy than stabilize. Then only
Absolutely.
until you stabilize is then you can start looking again. So I had a hard time kind of getting used to that, where because for like crypto and retirement funds and all that, you can just buy and it's like so easy, so fast. It's just like a fast transaction. But real estate is so different, and it took me some time to realize that. And now that I'm kind of in that first year suck, it's like I'm realizing, oh, okay, now I gotta actually wait until it's stabilized. Then until that point happens, then it's like I can start shifting to, really start looking at buying. And yeah, with putting more down, Frank, you taught me about that too, where it's like you want to run your numbers just off the 25% down. And if you can get your yield off of that, then because you were saying then it's okay at that point if you wanted to put more down, but you always should run it off the 25% down, and make sure you get your yield off of that alone.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I looked at it. Just like anything, to when you say that to someone, should I put more down to increase cash flow? That could be considered massaging the numbers, right? We don't want to massage the numbers to make our deal look good or like a deal we should buy. So if like the other thing you could do is not include expenses for the first year, right? And then you get better cash flow. But if something happens, you're going to be sorry. So I used to really think about it as massaging the numbers. But after you and I spoke, like on one property, instead of putting 25% down, we put an extra 5% down. It wasn't, and my thinking was, I got $5,000 just sitting there. I can put it into the property. It would help us get a better interest rate. It would help us get a little bit better cash flow,
Exactly.
probably better than leaving the $5,000 sitting in the bank, right? So if you look at it that way, I think it's okay. To it's not making the deal better in the wrong way, but it's giving you a better return while you continue to look for other things. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, to me, I think as long as you're comparing things on an equal basis, like if you're comparing everything at 25% down, that's fine. But yeah, I've got no problem with putting more money into a down payment, because if you think about the trade-offs you're making, and you mentioned a couple of them, right? One thing is you're paying lending fees on the amount of money you're borrowing. So the more you put in, the more those fees come down. If you put more money in, you're paying less interest and you're having a lower payment and more cash flow on the amount of your loan over time. If you put more money in, it really kind of depends on, I think the term is opportunity cost, right? What else could you do with the money? So if you could leave it in the bank and get 4%, or if you could put it against a loan that's going to cost you 7 or 8 and knock that down, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So if you have a lot of opportunities where there's more deals and you have more, great deals than you can fund, and you want to get into them, it might be a different story, but they're kind of hard to come by right now. So, yeah, I think it can make a lot of sense just from cash flow, from lender fees, from your monthly payment. I
Yeah,
think it
and
can.
I think it's different, right? $5,000 versus $40,000, right? I wouldn't have put $40,000 down on the property because we could buy another house with that.
Right.
How about you, Sam? Have you thought about if it's worthwhile to put more money down?
I haven't done it. I haven't done it. But I agree with both Sean and Mikey about it. I mean, it can go either way, but the way I kind of the calculation I have is based on, let's say 20 to 25%. And like John said, that's the way I compare whether it's a good deal or not. Because if you pump those numbers and you put more down payment, yeah, you can make it a bit better deal. But I just haven't done it. It's in my market.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And that was your thought, Dennis. What do you think about it? What were your thoughts going into that?
I guess my first thought was I didn't want to kind of like waste the money. I mean, you're not really wasting it, right? But because you're still putting it in but a lot of good points were brought up as far as like, the interest, the lower payments. So I guess I asked that question and because I wasn't even really thinking about all those other things. I was thinking more of like just the cash flow. That's the only thing I was kind of like focusing on was the cash flow, and not, lender fees and things like that. So I'm still analyzing everything at 25%. So I just analyze at 25%. I analyze at uh, a interest rate that I could get without discount points, So I guess that would be one of my follow-up questions then would be, well, instead of putting 30% down, and maybe you could pay half of what you would if you had to go 30% to buy down points. I don't know. Is that something that anybody's done? Have you bought down the interest rate at all?
We usually go into all of our deals, and the average has been about 2 points per deal to bring down the rate. And again, in the stuff we're buying, for $80,000, that's a $1,600, so it's not much, but it does help with the payment. And every little bit, we've talked before about, well, surprisingly, the insurance topic has become a hot topic over all of these conversations, and people have been really interested in that because, like we were saying the other day, in the stuff we buy, if we're saving $50 a month on insurance, it bumps our cash on cash return up, by I think 3% on the average. So if our requirements are 200 a DOI and our 10% cash on cash return, if you buy that and then you're saving, 40 or $50 on insurance, then instead of a 10% return, we're seeing 13 or 14%. That's with everything else taken out, all the pie tie taken out. So I wouldn't tie up a lot of money, but if we had that, I don't know, if we sold something and had a few $1,000s just sitting in a savings account and we came up on a purchase, we would probably go ahead and put it in there. I think it's safer. I've told Dion before, anything I have sitting in the bank, I would rather put it in a property because life happens every day, and that money's going to, for me, that money's going to be gone without me realizing where it went. And if it's all in properties and you have an event, you'll find the money somewhere, right? But at least everything you had prior is safe, pretty safe. We're making it through the list pretty good. I think we're a little bit past an hour, but I appreciate everybody hanging in there, especially everyone in the chat. It's awesome for you to be here with us today. Do you guys have any other thoughts before we get to our last subject? Was there any questions, Mikey, that I might have missed?
Native to Earth hopped on, Christian. So he's an investor in Hawaii, the Big Island, and doing great things out there. And let's see. Yeah, so Susie asked, so is stabilization when you've had no expenses for a certain amount of months, or am I confused on this?
Could you say that again?
She asked, so is stabilization when you've had no expenses for a certain amount of months, or am I confused on this?
Oh, that was something that we talked about a while back. W- when when do you think a property is stabilized? And I would have to agree if um because that's something we didn't concentrate on right away, right? We bought these properties and we have property managers for them all. And I didn't even until we went through Matt's course and he emphasized stabilizing and optimizing. You know, it was already a year. We had properties for over a year, and I'm like, oh, I should have probably started doing that. Um, but that's what I would think. If you have had a property for say 6 months and you haven't had any issues, I call ours stabilized at that point. But then you need to dig into optimization. Like I think with one thing you could do for optimization is if you want to try to self-manage your properties because that's going to save you 10% of your gross rents typically, and that could add quite a bit of cash flow. I think I talked before about how much we spend on property management over 8 doors, and it's about 800 a month. But for me, I don't see me being at this point, me being able to manage the properties from this far away successfully. So I think you have to consider that as well. Um, Other things for optimization. Do you remember any of the stuff that Matt brought up when he was talking about optimization? Um, I can't think of any offhand, but there might be things like, you know, if you're able to sub-meter a property that it is not sub-metered when you buy it, for example, putting in separate water meters or gas meters or whatever that might be. That way you're able to have the tenants pay their own utilities versus the landlord having to put any in for what they call landlord paid utilities. A lot of times on small multifamilies, they the landlord is responsible for water, sewer, garbage, things like that, and the tenants pay for power and gas. Um, so as far as optimization goes.
Yeah, Dennis had to hop off real fast, and but he said he'll be in the chat. So yeah, thanks, Dennis, for hopping on.
Yeah, that's that. Just to build on Frank, what you were talking about, that's definitely what I'm looking at is with my duplex is I pay for the water. All the other utilities are split, and I've done some price quotes on some sub metering. Right now, I'm just doing it with a flat fee, which I think I'll stay with, but I might eventually go sub meter.
Mhm. Yeah, and I guess it depends on the cost. Some markets it's really reasonable to do that. Some it's real expensive. So just something to consider. Um, yeah, I think like you said, Dennis is still in the chat. So I think we'll go ahead and get to our the most important question, and I mentioned it to you guys yesterday. And something that we do on some of our videos in the past is ask you guys if you're into music. Um, and Dennis had a really good list of what stuff he listens to. So I should have caught him earlier. But um, Mikey, you've been through this with me before. What are you listening to today? And do you like music?
I love music, so I'll say Maoli music. It's Maoli. They're a Hawaiian band, and they did a cover of a Brett Young song, In Case You Didn't Know. And I'll tie this to a music memory I had where, so my girlfriend said, okay, you can go to Vegas for the ORAD event, but you got to take me to Maui. So I said, okay, let's do this. My cousin works for a boat cruise in Maui, so she got us free tickets. So we went on a boat cruise on the beach of Maui, and it was during the whale season, so we were able to see some whales. And then on the boat, they had a guitarist and a singer. So I requested that song, and so we were listening to actually the Brett Young song while we were looking at whales and looking at the beach, and it was a good song. So yeah, so I leveraged that opportunity so that I could go to Vegas to see all you guys. It was worth it.
She knows how to get what she wants, doesn't she?
Yeah, yeah.
How about you, Sean? This might be a crazy thing to talk about on a real estate meetup, but
Mm.
do you like music and do you have something you're listening to these days?
Right. So I mostly listen to Audible or something like that. But you know, when you brought the topic up, I figured I would just go ahead and confess. If you would have asked me a month ago, it would have been a different answer. And if you asked me a month from now, it might be a different answer because I don't even traditionally listen to any bluegrass or folk music, right? But there's a group called the Petersons that perform in Branson, and they came up in my YouTube feed, and I don't know why I clicked on it, and I just really enjoyed their stuff. You know, they can all sing really good. Country Roads Take Me Home and Blue, and I don't know, but yeah. And since if you click on one, YouTube feeds you another, so it's like I find myself listening to that every once in a while.
Yeah,
But a month from now it'll probably be something different. But for the last few days,
yeah, awesome. I've always said, music is one thing that can change your mood in an instant, and I rely on it heavily to you know, get through some days. Have you listened to Alison Krauss? Speaking of bluegrass,
I couldn't even tell you any other bluegrass singers there. I mean, it was randomly just happened, and
yeah, Alison Krauss has been around for a while, and she's got an awesome voice and has done some really great songs. How about you, Sam? Are you into music and you got a favorite these days?
Yeah, so I listen to the podcast like you guys and YouTube and all that. But when my mind doesn't take anymore, it's time to listen to music. And
Yeah.
so and I have some days that it's not ready. I'm not ready to get more education. So I go and turn on music. I would say uh, you know. Uh, I don't listen to something new these days, but some of the classics. I like the classics like "Careless Whisper" and George Michael and stuff like that. That have been listened by millions of people in the past. So I'm just taking the old route, um, and also like I like I like Arabic music, which is kind of it speaks to me as well. So a combination of both is a good thing, and yeah, and when you like the song, I kind of enjoy that because it's staying in my subconscious, so keep me going.
Yeah, that's like I said, it's been a big help for me. Before I talk about my list, it looks like Stacy loves Alison Krauss. Dirk Bentley is awesome, and it's been a funny thing, having Pandora and stuff and creating your own stations. You pick an artist, create a station, and then you get a lot of other artists through that in that genre. And um, one that recently came up for me, I don't know where I heard it, but I posted the other day about the Teskey brothers, and they have some really good stuff out there right now. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, the Teskey brothers, they have a song called Pain and Misery, which is really cool. They have another song that's a hit right now, but we talked about it weeks ago when we first started doing this, and I was telling the guys that I'm hearing country songs that I really, really enjoy. And when I go to research them, I realize that the songs came out 8 or 10 years ago, and I'm wondering, where was I all this time that this song's been out, and I'm running around telling people, oh, you got to listen to this new song, and they're like, well, what new song? That was out for, 8 years. Where have you been? But yeah, the Teskey Brothers are kind of bluesy, soulful kind of music, and it's pretty relaxing, and as old as I am, I mean, we grew up listening to like BB King, and I like when he was collaborating with Eric Clapton and a lot of the old, blues rock kind of stuff. So uh, thank you for indulging me on that one.
Yeah, it's funny because when I'm looking at my YouTube feed and it's all the REI stuff, and I see something pop up, I don't want to click on it because I'm thinking about Zuber's voice in my head, where it's like you got to curate your feed and you don't want the algorithm, messing up what you're into. And yeah, so it is a struggle sometimes. You got to separate, the music with the REI stuff.
Yeah, and I was thinking of that when Sam was talking about, clearing your head. I think once over the last 3 years, I was at a point where I was taking in too much REI, and I just needed
Yeah.
a break and it only lasted a day, but have you guys had that experience too? Has it ever gotten to be just too much, Mikey?
Yeah, I used to check my buy box every day after work, but then I realized I wasn't really getting the best results that way because I was so tired. So I flipped it, and now I'm checking my buy box before I go to work. Then when I come home, I'm pretty exhausted. So then that's kind of when I just veg a little bit. But I'm still trying to do things on the side. And there are times where if I'm going cycling, maybe I'll just listen to music sometimes instead of REI stuff. So yeah, it's kind of like a balance you just gotta play with.
Yeah. How about you, Sean? Have you gotten to that point where you felt like you were taking in too much real estate content?
Yeah, around the time I was doing my getting ready to close on my second property, I got to admit I took a break from looking at the buy box every day because I said, you know what, I'm not ready to buy anything right now, even if a great deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I took a little break for a while, and wanted to let it stabilize and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
took a little break.
Yeah. I think that's a little different because you could get depressed when all these deals pop up and you're not ready to buy.
That's right.
How about you, Sam? Do you ever get overloaded with real estate?
Yeah, I do. I would say I do. Every week, once a week, or once it or maybe every other week. I would say um, I would just shift to some music and listen to them and let YouTube take me to them, and then I'll go back my way.
Yeah, cool. Dennis had said he's continually on Audible or some type of podcast, but he loves what today is called classic rock from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And that was a little depressing when all the music I loved started being called oldies. So to me, when I grew up, oldies were the 50s and 60s, and now I guess the 90s are oldies. So that tells you something.
They have their own flavor. No
Yeah.
worries.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I really appreciate you guys hanging out for so long, and hopefully, you're up for doing it again. And we'll think of some different things to discuss, I'm sure. And also to everybody that joined us in the chat. I don't think we missed anything that we needed to answer, right?
Yeah, that was everyone, and Sound Snacks hopped in too. So just want to say hello to Sound Snacks. She's always in the chats too. So this great.
Yeah, and one thing real quick before we leave, it looks like in the chat some people met each other, right? And that's what we're hoping that our Wednesday Zoom continues to do. Last week, a few people met that realized they were in the same state. Mikey, you brought that up on X. And making connections like that for maybe someone who's more experienced in the same market that you're in is really beneficial. And I think in general, just creating friendships with, like we said, good people, because everybody in here seems to be a really good person. And Flying Lotus, I haven't heard of them.
Maybe on the next one, Mikey will pronounce the name of Hawaii state fish.
I think, yeah. Did you want to give that a try today, Mikey?
Yeah, that's humu humu nuku nuku apua.
Perfect.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I couldn't even spell it after I read it.
The joke.
Okay. Oh, all right, you guys. Thank you so much, and I'll look forward to doing this again soon. So we got to keep in practice.
Yeah.
Thanks, Frank.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sam.
All right.